Chairman of the Finance Committee for City of High Point, calling to order our April 14th, 2022 meeting. To commence, here with me is Mayor Pro Tem Monica Peters and Councilman Michael Holmes here at City Hall, as well as staff. So we will duly jump into business. Councilman Jones was traveling out of town today for work and will not be able to join us, but we will begin. The first item today is 2022-153. This is a contract that deals with the Jackson Lake substation upgrade, and the presenter Tyler Barrier is going to help us out.
Good afternoon, Finance Committee. This is an item that the Electric Department is bringing forth for scheduled upgrades to Jackson Lake Substation. We do have funds in the FY 22 and 23 budget to take care of this. The scope of the project is to rebuild Jackson Lake Substation, basically revamp like we do other substations. This is the oldest station in the city. It was built in 1973, but a transformer was not added there until 95, and that's the one that's currently there, so it's definitely at the end of its life. We had a bid put out through Purchasing Department on March the 30th. We had 5 schedules for various equipment: substation structure, circuit switchers, circuit breakers, relay panels, and transformers. So staff is asking for approval for the 5 schedules to be approved for those various items.
When a bid comes in on your bid tabulation, there's a couple with asterisks. I know when I read these 3 words what it means, but in your world, it says not firm pricing as compared to the others. Or are they asking for some wiggle room inside their contract?
They are. Luckily, none of those vendors were the selected vendors, but
Right.
due to circumstances right now with supply chain and various pricing,
Okay.
we did have some manufacturers or their rep say that they were not confident that they could provide pricing. And one of these, if you look at Waukesha, their lead time was 36 months. And they said, we don't know what prices are going to look like in 3 years. And to be honest, we were not willing to wait 3 years for a transfer. So,
What? That brings up a question. In the event of a catastrophe to a transformer, what do we do?
currently, we do have spare. But we've talked to the staff and city management about, I know this doesn't have anything to do with the item, but I'll go into it. Right now, we've talked to staff and planning about some of the residential subdivisions that are coming through TRC. You know, if it's a City of High Point Electric served area, typically when we see those items come through TRC, we start laying it out and we know about what we're going to have to order to serve that subdivision. And in years past, that lead time was, 10, 12 weeks. Once they got it graded, we put in conduit, everything was good to go. Now, for some of these smaller residential style transformers, we're seeing 80 weeks. So we are starting to let developers know up front, look, there may be issues, we'll work through it any way we can with you. Whether it's bigger transformers and fewer of them, or, put it in underground with a pole at a transformer and then take it down when underground infrastructure comes in. But there are options, but
They're challenging.
very challenging. Trying to think outside the box.
Any questions on this from, Finance Committee? Hearing none, I will make a motion to approve item 2022-153. Okay, and Mayor Pro Tem Peters, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Holmes? Councilman Morrison, aye. That motion passes. Thank you. Appreciate the extra info. Next item is 2022-154. This is also a contract, but it's dealing with our Carolina Industrial Equipment. And we have Fleet Director Kevin Rogers.
Thank you, sir. The Streets Division had an accident with a 2019 Freightliner leaf truck that resulted in damage to the bed and the boom. And because of extensive damage, they both need to be replaced. The damaged parts are ODB brand, and the only dealer in North Carolina is Carolina Industrial Equipment. Price of $55,811.41 is for the parts, labor, and freight. Estimated delivery is 90 to 120 days. Funds are available. 21-22 budget. We do recommend making this purchase.
Any questions or comments on this item?
No, we trying to keep it local as possible. A radius of partial.
Yes.
Any other questions? Hearing none, I'll make a motion that we approve item 2022-154.
Second.
Second. Mayor Pro Tem Peters, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Holmes?
Aye.
And Councilman Moore is an aye. That motion passes. Thank you. Next item, 2022-155. A lot of contracts today. And this one is in construction support services. Robbie Stone's presenting.
Yes, sir. Thank you. So this is construction support services that Public Services is requesting from Davis Martin Powell as contract administration and resident project representative for this upcoming NCDOT interchange improvements at 2970 Business 85 and South Main Street. This work is anticipated to last about 30 months, and these services are needed to augment city staff on items such as field inspections, plan revisions, water and sewer testing, and record drawings related to the water and sewer improvements. The estimate for this 30-month duration of work is $97,800. We do have funding in the current budget, and we're recommending approval of this to Davis Martin Powell.
Thank you, Robbie. Any comments or questions on this item? Hearing none, I'll make a motion to approve item 2022-155. Second, Mayor Pro Tem Peters, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Holmes?
Aye.
Councilman Moore is an aye. That motion passes. Next item is 2022-156. It's a contract on street resurfacing for the city, and Robbie's presenting as well.
Yes. So each year about this time, we bring forth our annual street resurfacing bid. We opened our bids on March the 16th of this year, and the bids were quite much higher than what our estimate was. Our estimate was 3.3 million. Bids came in about 4.6 million. So at that point, we worked with management and looked at various other resources, trying to analyze what's the next steps we can take. Where we're at right now is we've decided to kind of scale back that resurfacing this year and hold that money until next year. Now that money predominantly comes from a PAL bill funding. We did verify, and I have in writing from the state that we can hold that PAL bill funding until next year. You can actually hold it for 10 cycles, and there's typically 2 distributions a year. We're going to hold the balance of that money until next year and just group it with a much larger project. However, we do bring forth this item with this current time because there were a few streets last year within certain locations that we received a lot of requests to go ahead and finish paving those locations, and we couldn't do it with the funding that we had at that time last year. So there was an agreements made that we would verbal agreements we would come back in and finish those streets this year. One of the streets here, Arlington, was brought to you all for speed humps, and so just in order to install those speed humps, the street also needs to be resurfaced. So this year we have 3 streets on the contract plus the Arlington speed humps. The pricing was negotiated with the low bidder for the overall contract, and so we are asking that Sharp Brothers be awarded this contract for the reduced resurfacing project for amount of $495,963.58.
Any comments or questions?
Yeah, I've got some questions.
Okay.
Okay, so of that 495,000, because I know that we did some numbers yesterday, and you were showing us, I think it was roughly, it's roughly like a 50% increase on liquid asphalt, which is the problem. Is that correct?
Right, so the street resurfacing or resurfacing is directly related to fuel prices.
Okay.
So yes, liquid asphalt about a year ago, the liquid asphalt price is around $450 a ton. Now it's up to almost $670 a ton. So had an astronomical increase. We have looked at some other resources. There is some projections for 2023 that the price, the Brent oil price, the barrel will go down to about $89 per barrel. Right now, I think it's closer to $100 a barrel. I think they reached 112, 115 over the past few weeks. So we're hoping that that pricing will stabilize and then level out to closer to the $89, and then next year we'll get some better pricing overall.
So if we deferred these three also till October 22nd, 2022, could we possibly save about $200,000? Because if it's about 50% above the price, I'm just thinking, you know, I got real confused yesterday morning, I'll just tell you all right now. And I didn't realize that we were taking all the other street resurfacing and only doing those three. Now, I will admit that, and I talked to Tasha, and that, you know, Swan Lake was one that I got complaints on, and the reason why, and this is maybe something that we need to really consider, is what happened, you know, the neighbors on Swan Lake were watching all these streets get paved, and they were using their road, their section of the road, with equipment. Mm-hmm. So then here they're getting extra deterioration on their part of the road, and then everybody just packs up and leaves. So that's what kind of created the uproar. So, and I did try to contact the HOA president today just to say, this is where we are as a city. Could you talk to your folks and just see if we can save the taxpayer money? And it means sending them all to October 2022. But I don't know, I mean, how does staff feel about that?
Right. The liquid asphalt does play a good portion in the overall pricing. However, currently what they're also looking at is their expense costs for all their other equipment, the diesel fuel costs for that, the increased employee cost also. So there's more than just the liquid asphalt in this overall scheme here, I guess. I do not think we would see $200,000 savings by October. There may be some savings if fuel prices continue to decrease. I'm not sure that fuel prices are going to continue on the decrease right now, just watching, but you know, that's kind of my crystal ball look. But hopefully in 2023, we will see those prices to more stabilize, and we can get some better pricing and then have a larger contract. And one of the benefits of a larger contract is hopefully it'll be more enticing for folks to bid on and maybe get a little better price or unit price on individual items.
Okay. And then after I realized that I had totally misunderstood the presentation, I went back through it real closely and looked at all the different streets and like from and to, and then I noticed that nowhere on that list was Westminster. The only time Westminster was ever indicated was like from on Sturbridge from Westminster to whatever. And Westminster is the one that's the worst in that whole area. And we're just ironically on Tuesday, when I passed the worker with a neighbor of mine, we're told, yeah, this street is up for resurfacing. So I just, you know, I don't know what's going to happen with, you know, the folks speaking up and saying.
Westminster was originally on the overall list, and as we started putting our estimates together, that was one of the ones that got cut. So when we cut or remove a street from the list, we try to push it out to the next year. So it was intended to come on to the next year's resurfacing list. I know it's not, you know, it may be ideal for each and every person. You know, everybody wants their street resurfaced. So that was, but it was on the list and is continued to be looked at for next year's list as well.
But right now, it's not on that original list.
Not on the original list, but it was pushed out and forecasted to be on the 23 list.
So it was on a 2021 list, but then it didn't make it to the 2022 list, and now we're putting it on the 2023 list?
It was on the 22 list, but as we had to cut back due to, we bring this, when we first started evaluating our streets, we pull this big pool together. And so we start kind of going through the list of looking at various different criteria. And so we always have to cut streets out of that list. And so that was one of the ones that got cut, but being a street is cut doesn't mean that we just throw it away. When we cut it, we try to say, all right, let's put this out until next year so that we can keep pulling that back in and not totally discard it.
It is what it is.
It is. This is what happens, and we see it in other areas. I mean, when you have a limited amount of money, You have to make some tough decisions, and you don't always make everybody happy, and we deal with that in
Right.
nonprofits and everything.
No, I got it. Out of 30 streets on the list, 3 will be resurfaced. Okay, I just,
Well, and this is something that, not only this city, this is something that we in this city and everywhere else have been battling for
Right.
a decade. We get hit with one financial crisis or some kind of crisis after another that comes down to money, and we just have to make some tough decisions.
In terms of looking out for project market for asphalt, as we start to see asphalt, has the city ever done anything like buying machinery at a lower price, handing that out?
I'm not,
While the cost is lower, I mean,
right.
buying a little bit more. Also, I know sometimes when you use fuel, you try to buy it at a lower cost.
I'm not aware of that from an asphalt perspective. I will say that liquid asphalt price is a number that's distributed by the NCDOT monthly, so that price changes monthly.
Okay.
Right now, so if prices were to drop drastically at the gas pumps, I would think that based on things that's going on in the world, the asphalt plants and suppliers are probably not going to reduce a whole lot. Even though liquid asphalt price may decrease, they're probably not going to reduce their prices a whole lot until things stabilize a little more.
I don't know how flexible
Right.
or quick downward pressure on some
Right.
prices.
Right. And we'll definitely will continue to monitor it, and not just locally, but globally.
Any other discussion on this item? Hearing none, I'll make a motion to approve item 2022-156. There's a second. Mayor Pro Tem Peters, how do you vote?
aye.
Councilman Holmes? Councilman Moore's an aye. That motion passes. Speaking of unlimited money, or limited money, item 2022-157 concerns the ARPA funds. Robbie Stone presenting on our American Rescue Plan Act.
So this is, we're bringing forward this as a resolution so that Public Services has sought counsel from a outside consultant to seek funding opportunities for some of our CIP projects. So in order to be able to apply submit for any of these grants, we have to have a resolution that's adopted by council. And so that's basically what this is going through. It's not part of the ARPA funding or anything that the city received. This is a whole separate, bucket. So this is just a resolution for council to adopt so that we can move forward with our consultant in applying for these grants. The first application round is May 2nd, and then there'll be another round in the fall, and then some of these extend out for up to 5 years. So we'll keep submitting and watching these and see what we can obtain so that we can help add some relief to our current CIP and continue some of these projects.
Do you or any of staff have an idea, as we move forward on this, which I'm assuming we will, that if they apply like May 1, how quick will they hear back on each application? No? Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, I make a motion to approve item 2022-157.
Wait,
Okay?
now I can make a comment, sorry.
Sure.
Okay, so back to the street resurfacing. I was good. Wait.
Hold
No,
on.
no.
Let's do this one and then.
It's about ARPA. It's about public services applying for ARPA grants.
Okay, go ahead.
Can public services apply for street resurfacing under the ARPA policies?
I will ask our consultant.
Okay.
Based on what I've seen, I don't think it'll qualify, but I can ask our consultant.
Okay. Okay.
Anything else? Did I get a second?
Yes.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Peters, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Holmes?
Aye.
Councilman Moore is an aye. That motion passes. Good thing.
Thank you for letting me ask.
Item 2022-158, we're looking at a contract change order for Samet, and Assistant Manager Eric Almeida will present.
Thank you, sir. We are asking council to approve a final adjusting change order with Samet Corporation for the police headquarters project. As you recall, we did have a contract with Samet for a guaranteed maximum price of $19.3 million. We did have a couple of change orders, one that staff approved back in May for $70,947.51 for additions that were not in the original scope of the project. Some of those were electrical additions, waterproofing of the elevator pit, generator platform, steam hood, steam exhaust hood. We did have another change order for $65,675 that included some additional electrical work, some detention area benches, some of the landscaping enhancements, and some plumbing repairs and upgrades that were not included in the original scope. Because the two together exceeded $90,000, we need to bring that to council for approval. The two change orders together represent less than 1% of the total contract price. So we are asking council to approve the increase of the contract amount of $65,675. We have funds available.
Any comments or questions on this? Change orders do happen. Many of us got to go to the ribbon cutting not too long ago and get a tour of that facility, and it is first class. Our police are very proud of it, and certainly the work that they are doing on behalf of our citizens is admirable. And but we were very fortunate in this project because we needed a new facility, and we were very thankful to the philanthropic endeavors of the Tucker family, and High Point's very fortunate to have gotten out, even though it's a big number. It's a lot smaller number than we would have had from going from ground up. So, any other comments? If not, I'll make a motion to approve item 2022-158.
Second.
There is a second. Mayor Pro Tem Peters, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Holmes? Aye. Councilman Moore is an aye. That motion passes. Thank you, Eric. Item 2022-159 is a contract for Cone Incorporated. Eric gets 2 times today.
Yes, sir. So this item is to consider a contract with Coney Incorporated to modernize the 2 existing elevators at the police headquarters building. It's a contract amount of $282,750. The 2 existing elevators are original to the building, which was built in 1980. As part of the project, there were minor upgrades done to the elevators, cosmetic upgrades, but no real enhancements to the mechanical system. When we first got into the building, the elevators worked fine, but as they've received more use, as the police staff has moved in and received more use, we've had a lot of issues with them, downtime, and we brought Kone in to take a look at them. They're recommending a full renovation, modernization of the 2 existing buildings. This will increase the reliability and safety of the units. Upgrades will be all the existing wiring, conduit, and duct will be replaced, new door panels and operating system. Something that we feel is needed for that building as opposed to the elevators staff over there. We are asking for that contract, and we have identified
Well, Chief, we put them stairs in there for a reason. Any other comments or questions?
I have a comment.
Sure.
So I was in that building a couple of weeks ago, and I missed the grand opening, so I hated that. But it is a beautiful building, and everyone's so excited to be there. One thing that I did notice is that the sound is kind of echoey. And I was wondering, I know that plants make a really great buffer, and I know a lot of times after market, a lot of showrooms rent plants, and some of our local nurseries, you can buy them for a lot cheaper. Have y'all thought about maybe, there's a lot of light in that front area, that maybe if we got like 10 or 12, like ficus type trees, that it might help with the sound? Have y'all talked about that at all? Okay, just,
Any other comments or questions? I'll make a motion to approve item 2022-159.
second.
There's a second. Mayor Pro Tem Peters, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Holmes?
Aye.
Councilman Morrison, aye. That motion passed. You're done, Eric.
I will take this next item too.
Oh!
Ms. Dunbeck is not with us.
Item 2022-160 is a resolution about a building roofs grant at 131 Greensboro Road, and Eric Almeida is going to present again.
As you may recall, council, you heard an update on this at the last council meeting, that the High Point City Council was asked to approve a resolution of support for this dedicated medical center to receive a $300,000 building reuse grant from the state of North Carolina. This group has leased 131 Greensboro Road and plans to locate a primary medical care center servicing senior citizen patients with Medicare Advantage insurance. They will have $1.7 million in upfits and create 30 jobs within the first 2 years, with an average annual salary of $90,339. And this is just information for you today, and they will be presenting this at the council meeting on Monday.
Thank you, Eric. We will look forward to hearing from either you or Sandy on Monday night.
It will be Sandy on Monday.
Next item is 2022. Bobby Fitzjohn, our Financial Service Director, is back to talk to us on some issuance of Geo Bonds.
I apologize. I thought we were all done with these.
Hey, I did too.
Last meeting, I did kind of allude to the fact that our refunding opportunities had changed a little compared to when we first started the planning process, primarily due to interest rate increases, both by the Fed and in the municipal market. We essentially saw our savings go for this particular refunding, the 2012 Geo Bonds. We saw that go from about an estimate of 430,000 to about 200 now with this deal. What we have here is a private placement bank loan with Pinnacle Bank rather than going forward with a public sale. We're confident that rates continue to move in a direction that we don't want to be in when it comes time to actually sell. What this bank loan will do is allow us to lock in at least that $200,000 of savings, and then there is no penalty to refund that at a later date if between now and the maturity of the bond we have a good interest rate environment, we can do that. So this, like the other issuance resolution that you previously did, will go to the full council Monday night, but I want to make sure you all are aware of that, and if you have any questions, I'm glad to answer them.
Any questions? We'll look forward to seeing you Monday. Next item, 2022-162. Stephen Howerlick is going to present our fuel budget update.
Good afternoon. Thank you for the introduction, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon to you, members of the Finance Committee. I just have a brief update on kind of where the fuel budgets stand. As you all have seen, as we all have seen, fuel prices have increased drastically over the past few months. Some of that is due to kind of supply chain issues, geopolitical issues, summer driving season, and the summer blends coming into effect. And so that also affects the city and our services on our kind of purchase of fuel and then department's usage of fuel. So just a few slides, we're going to talk about kind of how fuel works here at the city. Going to show you all some snapshots of what we paid from last spring up until about a month ago, and then just some next steps on what we're looking at as we continue to monitor this, because as I mentioned, the prices are significantly higher than when the current year's budget was developed around this time last year. So to start, accounting for fuel. So our fleet services division purchases fuel and then effectively sells it back to departments. I will note, the city of High Point does not pay federal or state gasoline taxes. Just noted those above. And the current year's fuel budget across all funds is about $2.5 million. And that budget was based on an annual average of $1.61 per gallon, which to the average consumer would be the equivalent of $2.18 per gallon. Looking at changes in fuel costs since spring of 2021, I've listed what the city's paid, but then also just what the average consumer would have paid. And this is for regular unleaded. And so in the spring of 2021, $1.61 a gallon. You see it creep up in the fall, a little higher in February, and then in March 22, just this past month, $3.16 a gallon, or the equivalent of $3.73 a gallon. I did see today that nationwide gas prices are down about 25 cents from last month, but that's still a lot higher than what the budget was developed on. And so we're still looking at this weekly, bi-weekly basis, knowing that every time we buy fuel, it has an effect on how we end the fiscal year. I will just also note that this is regular unleaded. Diesel is cost a little higher. In the March purchase, the city paid $3.16 for regular unleaded. We paid $4.15 for diesel. And so that difference has gone up even higher than what our increases here have been. So our next steps, we're going to continue to monitor and evaluate fuel costs in constant communication with Fleet Services and Kevin. When they buy fuel, they let us in budget know, just so we can kind of keep track on how it's going to affect department spending. Monitor department spending, project year-end estimates. We only have a few more months left, but we want to make sure we have enough to cover all of our operations. At some point in the next few months, we'll be bringing a budget amendment forward to cover the additional costs, but we're just, we don't want to rush it and then have fuel prices drop or spike up again and then us have to come back more than once. And so hopefully sometime in May, maybe even early June is when we'll have that amendment. The closer to the end of the year, the better information we'll have. For the 2022-23 budget, we're obviously going to have to adjust the budget upward. How long prices are going to stay elevated at this current level is an unknown, but we want to make sure that departments have enough resources to continue their operations without having to cut back on services unless it gets to that point, but I think we're not there currently. And then in 22-23, the Budget Evaluation Division, working with Fleet Services, will be monitoring costs and spending throughout the fiscal year, and if any updates need to be made to this committee or to the full council, we do so accordingly. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? I don't have any questions. I just have a request. See if you can get a better crystal ball for. This doesn't require any vote. This was just a brief.
Just for information only.
All right. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Is there anything else to come before finance today? Anybody opposed to adjournment up here?
No, I would like to make some comment.
Please.
So we're going to have a ribbon cutting today at 5:30 at the Blooming Board. It's the newest retailer in our Callis district. So I just want staff and council to know that all our hard work is paying off, and we're growing that area, and we're going to have lots of investment and lots of excitement. So I encourage you all to go out to the Blooming Board at 5:30 and help them celebrate their grand opening. So that's all.
I'll second that, and I'll also say, I know it's not kosher anymore, but I've been fortunate to be up here long enough that I'll say it anyway. Easter's coming, and I hope all of you have a blessed and safe Easter, and God bless you, and I hope the ACLU doesn't come after me. We're adjourned.